Hi everyone, Bandanner here. I hope you're all doing well. Welcome back to the channel and welcome to this week's WARNO devlog. Today is our second SOUTHAG division, the 1st Tanková Divize, which is a Czechoslovakian division. So, Dobrý den, commanders, you gents say. That apparently means good morning in Czechs. So we are back with our second WARNO SOUTHAG Division preview. In today's devlog, we'll take a look at another new nation and division, the Warsaw Pact Czechoslovakians, with the 1st Tanková Divize, or 1st Tank Division. So we get a little bit of Czechoslovakian history here. So, thanks to this writer's oopsie, Czechoslovakia has now officially entered WARNO's law as a delicious communist-made chocolate cereal, outlawed for its bohemian taste. Thanks for the joke, guys. Okay. However, the real Czechoslovakia, as a communist nation, part of the Eastern Bloc and Warsaw Pact, was an entirely different entity. In the late stages of World War II, the Soviet Red Army had liberated most of the Czechoslovakian lands. The nation turned forcibly communist by 1948 and was renamed the People's Republic of Czechoslovakia. Both Czechs and Slovak, as official languages, were used in military and political documents, and the status of both individual republics, which later facilitated the peaceful dissolution of Czechoslovakia in 1992, was enshrined in the constitution in 1960, with the Czechs Bohemia, Moravia, and Slovakia. See, I didn't know that. It's quite interesting. There you go, you learn something new every day. The relationship between the communist country as a client state and its overlord the USSR changed abruptly after the Prague Spring of 1968. While the Czechoslovakians clamoured for more political liberation, or liberalisation even, the Soviet Union, joined by the other Warsaw Pact nations, invaded the Middle European country and put down the protest violently. Before 1968, the Czechoslovak People's Army, or Czechoslovenska Ludová Armada, or CSLA, I'm sorry if I just butchered that, was considered to be one of the best trained and equipped in all of the Warsaw Pact. After the Prague Spring, the armed forces were undone, never to be trusted fully by the Soviet army. The purge of the old army in the 1970s and the strict control of the Soviet army were still felt by the late 1980s. However, Czechoslovakia's well-established industrial and economic base ensured that the country's armed forces were the best-equipped Warsaw Pact militaries, aside from the USSR. So, a little bit of history about the division itself. So, the 1st Tank Division doesn't have an impressive historical record or even much of a combat career during the Cold War. It was formed in 1958, and it never really saw any action. Like the rest of the CSLA, it was formed along Soviet Army lines, towing the line in terms of TO&E, from motorized rifles to the disposition of its tank forces. The formation was kept in reserve behind the 2nd, 19th and 20th Motor Rifle Divisions as part of the 1st Army, the main front-line army. This resulted in the 1st Tanková Divize being one of the best equipped and most combat-ready CSLA units. I like the logo, can I just say. As mentioned before, thanks to the Czechoslovakian industrial capacity and many military factories, the CSLA was the best equipped in the Warsaw Pact, besides the Soviet Army itself. Exporting its own weapons to other communist nations, it featured both modern license-built Soviet equipment and Czech's domestic-designed weaponry. Czechoslovakia was the only country outside of the USSR to produce the BMP-2, designated as the BVP-2 in CSLA service, and fielded a large number of this IFV. In comparison, East Germany and Poland only had 30 of each of these vehicles, generously donated by their Soviet comrades. Czechoslovakia also produced, as did Poland, the T-72M and M1, plus the country's armed industry jointly, again with Poland, designed and produced the Scott, the OT-64, in CSLA service, and the Topaz OT-64 vehicles. We've seen plenty of those knocking about in various games over the years. There is more. The domestic arms industry also produced their own variants of the AKM assault rifle, the VZ-58, but did not switch to the smaller 5.56 caliber assault rifle as the USSR and other Warsaw Pact nations. Another homegrown weapon was the UK VZ-59 machine gun. The Czechoslovakian armed forces used the ubiquitous RPG-7, but also fielded the domestic-made disposable rocket launcher called the RPG-75, quite similar in performance to the RPG-18 or M72 lore. And of course, no preview of the Czechoslovakian Cold War weaponry would be complete without their gnarly-looking SMG, the VZ-61 Scorpion. So, what is it going to look like in SOUTHAG? So, logistics is not the best category. So, for this offensively minded tank division, it can count on the usual set of logistic units, including a FOB, the new V3S medium supply, and the T813 heavy supply truck. Command units include the BVP-1K and the BVP-2K, as well as the VSOT-65/R2M, which is the Czechoslovakian designation for the in-game Polish Scott R2M. What about infantry then? Infantry tab has plenty of modern equipment, so the 1st Tank Division infantry battalions were all equipped with IFVs, be it the BVP-1 with Maluta or the BVP-1P with an ATGM, or the BVP-2 with the Konkurs ATGM, without limitations. The new Motostrelki come in 7-man squads with the VZ-58, 2x UK VZ-59L LMG, and either the RPG-7M or the RPG-75, depending on the variant. Command versions of this squad have the same manpower strength, but field a Scorpion, VZ-58 Igla manpad, and smoke grenades. Yes, a command squad with an Igla manpad. Very nice. The Zenisti, I'm sorry if I'm pronouncing that wrong, are the battlegroup's combat engineers, featured in 8 strong squads with Scorpion SMGs and either satchel charges or the LPO-50 flamethrower, depending on the variant. The command variant is 6 strong with the VZ-58 and the RPG-75. They come in the V3S truck or the OT-62A APC. The CSLA military police, called the TAI, is a 5-man strong squad with a mix of Scorpion and VZ-58 carrying the military police trait. Driving into battle in their UAZ 469 TAI, twice as strong but with the same mix of weapons and featuring the security trait, are the Polini Setny security squads, deployable in either the V3S truck or the OT-62A APC. Support units include the Lovishi Tanku, I'm sorry if I'm pronouncing that wrong. This is the usual 6-man strong tank hunting squad with 2 RPG-7VLs riding in a V3S truck or all variants of the BVP. So they can come in the BVP-2. You're going to have a lot of BVP-2s here. There's also the PTRS ATGM teams and the UK VZ-59 7.2mm medium machine gun teams. What a pretty squad. So, artillery. Pretty good category for the 1st Tank Division, with tube-based artillery coming in the new MVZ-52 82mm mortars, the D30 120mm howitzers, the 2S1, and the domestic Bandanner self-propelled guns. Rocket artillery includes the domestic-made RM70 as well as the older 32-round 130mm RM51 MRLS. Lastly, the new SVO demining vehicle. This is a BVP-1 hull with its turret stripped and its passenger compartment replaced with 24 rails for the 240mm short-range rockets. These were used to explosively clear paths in minefields. Look at that unit. Nice to see that in-game. Right, tank tab. As can be expected, the category is pretty good all round. All its main battle tanks are part of the T-72 family. The most common tank is the T-72M1 and the command variant the T-72M1K. In addition, a handful of T-72M and command T-72MK are available. While we gave East Germany a few individual T-72S as a March to War unit, the Czechoslovakians were in active negotiations with the USSR to obtain the blueprints of the tank in order to produce it themselves. While talks scuttered with the end of the Cold War, in WARNO's timeline, the Soviet Union will share the technical specifications with Czechoslovakia in order to bolster the satellite's armoured forces This is why the 1st Tank Division will have access to the T-72S in greater numbers compared to the East German 9th Panzer Division. The battle group doesn't field a dedicated towed anti-tank gun, with the only tank-destroying means being the PTRK, Konkers, being a locally designed Konkers-equipped BRDM-2. Always a nice tank shot. I do like the tank models in this game. Recon. So, the division's recon forces are pretty good and contain a couple of new units, both infantry and vehicle based. For the foot soldiers, these include the Pruskomnishi. That is a hard one to pronounce. Okay. Being a 4-man scout team with the VZ-58, 1 UK VZ-59L plus the RPG-75, deployed in either the UAZ or the Mi-2T helicopters, or even a Recon OT-65. Then there is the Zenisti Pruskomnishi, and they are 8-man scout squads with Scorpion 1 times the UK VZ-59L plus the RPG-75, and they come in either the V3S or the Mi-2T helicopters. The new Mot Pruskomnishi, I'm still not convinced I'm pronouncing that right, are 7-man scout squads with the VZ-58 and the 2 UK VZ-59L plus the RPG-7VM. They deploy in the V3S truck, the Recon BVP-1 or BVP-2, and the Mi-2T, and also an armed or unarmed Mi-17, which are Mi-8 helicopters. The new SHPZ are divisional recon commandos, being 5-strong squads with a VZ-85, SVD, a UK VZ-59L, and an RPG-75, special forces and shock traits, and they come in either the V3S truck or the new Mi-4 helicopter. Vehicle recon units include the new BPVZ Svatava, again another hard one to pronounce, being a radar recon equipped BVP-1 designed at the time when the USSR did not deliver BRM-1s to its allies. Although visually different from the latter, the Svatvas some of these words, they have letters in places you wouldn't have in English, and it's very confusing. Anyhow, the statistics are roughly the same, save it comes with the BMP-1's Malyukta ATGM. Malyutka. I always want to pronounce that with a T at the end. Anyhow, the Tu-143 is a new recon drone. Okay, anti-air tab. The average category with a division featuring the PPLRK S2M Strela 2 and the Igla Manpad teams. The self-propelled SAM includes the typical Strela 10M and the OSA AKM. The CSLA never used the Shilka or track-based SPG, instead relying on domestic-made and their trademark PLDVK VZ.53/59 Praga. I mean, the Praga was in Wargame as well, right? Which is an armoured Praga truck mounting a VZ 53/59 twin 30mm autocannon. Helicopter trab is rather mediocre. So, although some gunships will be present, these will include the light Mi-2 URP. The heavy helicopters are the Mi-17 Rocket 1 and 2 variants, plus the Mi-24D with the Flangella P and the S5M rocket pods. Air tab is, however, a decent category, with the mainstay of the battle group's air power being formed by the MiG-23 in both fighter and close air support roles. These include the new MiG-23BN in rocket, cluster, AT and napalm loadouts, and the new MiG-23MLA in air superiority fighter role. The Czechoslovakian 1st Tank Division forms up to be a potent offensive division with a great combination of tank, recon, artillery units. It lacks a sizable force of infantry, which means the division can't afford to be wasted in prolonged meat-grinding urban or woodland fights. But they are getting, from a personal point of view, a hell of a lot of tanks and a hell of a lot of BMP-2s. So they're going to be strong, yeah? And yes, I said strong. Okay. That's just a reminder of what SOUTHAG will include. But until next week, when we get the next division for SOUTHAG.